Puppet 10, Puppet 10.
Oh, what is it, children?
Tell us a story.
A story, huh? You want to hear about the old forum battles? Okay, who would you like to hear about?
Fletcher. I want to hear about Fletcher.
Tell us about Fletcher.
Yeah.
All right. Wikipedia defines felching as the act of...
No, I said Fletcher.
Yeah. Oh, Fletcher. Okay, then, let's get started. 'Twas the third round of battle in the year of '09, and I'd just killed a guy in a hat. I tracked my next prey to a house on a hill, who I was told I would know by his bright green cravat. As I broached the perimeter of his high-rise retreat, I saw that something was awry. What I thought was a fence to keep others away was hundreds of bodies piled 2 meters high. On closer inspection of said rotting corpses, I noticed the evidence of mass homicide, a scar down the left cheek of each pale face, and an arrow through every right eye. Disturbed though I was, as any would be, I knew that I had to continue, so I pushed aside bodies and climbed through the pile until the house that I sought was in view. But before I could take a single step up the hill, sudden pain as something flew by. An arrow had grazed me and left a large cut on my face, right down the left side. "That was a warning," a voice called out, "and the only one you shall receive. So unless you would like to be part of my fence, you should act like a tree and just leave." I looked up the hill to a man standing there with a bow and an arrow knocked high. His presence struck awe deep into my heart, not the least from the green of his tie. "I surrender," I yelled and dropped down to my knees. "But sir, you must help me this day. Your skills have astounded me deep to my core. You must teach me your archery ways." The man smirked, and then grinned, and then let out a laugh. "I won't teach you, I've only just met ya. Though I'll give you a hint, my archery sucks, but why do you think they call me the Fletcher? I can fletch any arrow to fly where I want, no matter the skill of the archer." "Then a challenge," I said. "I choose a target, you hit it, and then you shall have my departure." Fletcher hemmed and he hawed, but his pride was too great, so he invited me up to his archery range, where I gave him my challenge to bullseye the target via a flower growing out of his drain. "Very well," Fletcher said, as he reached for his quiver, and suddenly his hands were a blur, and when they slowed down he showed me his work. "You'll see you've underestimated me, sir." And he fired the arrow straight at my head, but it turned and shot off up the drain, where it pierced the poor daisy, then turned yet again, so the target it sought was attained. Defeated, I turned to grant him my absence, but he stopped me and said, "I'll be fair. You hadn't a clue what my arrows could do, so challenge me again, if you dare." I sat and I thought, wondering how I'd outwit this man Fletcher that stood here before me. For the feathers he wrought were masterpiece works which, as he'd proved, could kill a whole army. But he must have his limits, so I stood up to the man whose face showed nothing but mirth, and his grin never faltered as I said, "Hit the target, but first send the arrow around the whole earth." His hands started working, moving this way and that for minutes, then hours, then days, and at last he was done, and he held in his hands a wonder of Fletch origami. Fletcher fired his arrow, and it started its flight, picking up speed as it flew, and before long the arrow was gone from our sight, and waiting was all we could do. More weeks passed, and I got to know Fletcher quite well. He actually was a really good guy. But one day, as we sat on the hill and drank tea, his arrow came back and flew straight through his eye. See, as skilled as he was, the earth is quite large, and he'd made a slight miscalculation, so the arrow had drifted a bit over time, and thus Fletcher's self-trephination. So I walked down the hill, and the townspeople assumed that I'd been the victorious man. So I played along and announced to the crowd, yeah, that was totally my plan."
Puppet 10, that story was bullshit.
Fucking kids.